What we have done in this software that's a little bit different than our previous versions of software is we've given people the ability to kind of control what's being displayed on their screens. It's a nice little feature that, is not really utilized that much, and that's partially because not a lot of people know what's going on with it. So today I'm going to cover a couple things, and I'm hoping I'm going to have enough time to cover it. One, I want to go through some of the different displays that we have out there and some of the different controls that you can have that go along with it. And what I mean by that is you can have on Acquisition tab, for example, you can have certain things displayed, you can have certain bits of information displayed, you can have certain bands displayed if you want them to choose that. And I want to cover things like that. I also want to cover one of the new features and functions that we've implemented in the software, and that's called Panel Wizard. What Panel Wizard is the ability to design the screen to how you want it to be laid out. So these are a couple things that I'm going to be covering today. Alright, so as I was saying, one of the most important things I want to cover right now is what I'm going to be covering today is all actually in our product manuals. The product manual that I'm actually going to be expressly covering is called BrainAvatar Trainee Screens, and a new version of this manual is going to be coming out actually later today. And as you guys are kind of the first on this list, I will email you out the link so you guys can download them. But all the manuals can be found by clicking the Product Manuals button that's located right here in the BrainAvatar software. Any ones that are specifically for the BrainAvatar are located under BrainAvatar Documentation. And the one that I'm covering is actually the second trainee folder guide, which is this one right here. It's called BrainAvatar Trainee Screens. This covers a bunch of different features that I will not be covering. Hotkeys is one of them, for example. But it does cover some things I will be going through, which is tab renaming, the different types of displays that you're going to be working with, functionality of these displays, as well as the Panel Wizard system. So now, when I say things like this, the first thing I do kind of want to cover on, and I'm going to just minimize that for this right here, is what a display is and what you can do to change it for each and every single person. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually hit the exit button right here, and I'm going to show you a couple of the different displays that I have set up and how you can change what's being displayed on them. So I'm only going to cover a couple of them right off the bat, and if we have time we can cover some more and go through them. The first tab that I have up right now is called Acquired Waveforms, and this is the acquired waveforms that you set up on the Acquisition tab. If you wanted to have different information displayed, what you're going to do is you're going to find where your information is, and you're going to use the right click of your mouse button. Now what that does is this brings up this menu right here called Panel Options. In Panel Options you have a lot of different features that you can choose to do. If, for example, you didn't actually want to view one of those waveforms, you can actually check it off and look at less waveforms. So I'll right click up again. I'm going to put that back on. Now with acquired waveforms you don't usually look at the filtered waveforms, but you can choose to do that if you really wanted to. You can look at all the different waveforms, and then when you hit OK, it'll give you the bands to be able to display those. Other features that you can do is you can choose to either have it in the new scroll fashion, or if you check this, have it scroll in the older fashion of our software, where basically it's scrolling from left to right as opposed to right to left like it does now. And you can choose to show your DC offsets as well as the root mean square data. So this is, for example, on the Acquisition waveforms, is some extra features that you can do on it. The next tab I'm going to show you is one that I set up called the Training Waveforms. Now this is probably something that you're used to if you've used the Discovery software before. There are two different bits of information. You got your acquisition data, which is all your different bands that you're acquiring in. And then your training data is your training channels that you're used to, which is up to 4 channels that you have in the Discovery software. Now one of the things I do want you to notice is that there are two different things going on right here. One, the numbering is different and the order is different versus the acquisition. In acquisition, we're showing 3C3 to LE, 4P3 to LE, 12C4 to LE, and 13P4 to LE. What I want to say is that on the order that these are in and the numbers that these are in are controlled through the Montage tab, and I'm going to show you that real quick by opening up the setup screen, clicking the settings button, and going to Montage. As you can see, this screen's order and channel number is controlled by what's put right here. Acquisition is controlled in its own particular pattern and cannot be altered. But as some people have asked me, they do want to sometimes look at data in a different order, and that is actually based on how the montage is. So on the training waveform screen, if I right-click, you're going to see most of the same controls as you did on the acquisition. There is a little bit extra, which has some features of basically being able to export to the S-Loretta software, and that is with these ones right here. But much like the other software, or much like the acquisition tab, if I wanted to look at the raw EEG, I can do so. I can also look at the filtered waveforms on this as well. So that's one of the panel options for the training waveforms. The new thermometers as well have a special menu that goes along with it. This menu, as I right-click right here, mainly goes through the features of being able to not only show filtered bands, as it is right now, and as you're used to choosing, but being able to create thermometers that are based for events. So when I use this menu right here, as you can see we're in filters right now, if I click the drop-down box and I go to events, now I'm looking at a thermometer based for all the different events that we have assigned out there. And if I right-click and I switch back to filters, we are now looking at the filtered waveform thermometers. And this information is all based on the training waveforms. Okay, so as I was saying, the final tab that we're going to go over is going to be the event graph panel. This event graph panel, once again, much like every other display, or much like most other displays, has a panel option to go along with it. So when I right-click on this, it has different menu options that are available as well. Now, what makes this panel different than other ones is that the functionality of it's changed a little bit. In the older software, there was no way to control how the graphs kind of displayed on each other. There were some ways, if you did something certain ways, you would have them all together. If you did them this way, they would be separate. So the panel itself has been redesigned so that they're stacked one on top of another. And I will show you later how you can have them all grouped together, or you can keep them stacked onto each other. But one of the things you can do, for example, is you can turn off your tab default. You can choose to have more, you can choose to have less, you can turn off the auto range feature, and you can also change how it's scrolled as well as how large the lines are. But that is basically, in a nutshell, some of the different displays and some of the different things that you can do along with your panels to basically customize them so that they work for you. You can put in the information you want to look at, you can take out information you want to look at, and you can move things around, and you know, that's the basic that we're going to cover right here before we start really going into the full designing. Now, does anybody have any quick questions as far as what I just covered and any of the information I'm going over right here? Okay. So then what I will do right now is I am going to start covering how we can design a screen and have the screen now kind of be customized to who we are as a person. Now, when Ashley left you guys off last week, one of the last things she did was she imported an old settings file from an older version of software. So I have actually set up a folder that I did the same thing with. I brought in an EEG Pro one-channel alpha theta protocol. And the one thing that you'll always know that whenever you import old settings files into the new software is it's going to do a basic layout because it doesn't understand some of the new features that are built into it. So it's going to use the defaults of your system, but it's going to keep things like training as well as the event wizard information all to be standard. So it's not going to change any of that. It's going to just basically, though, take all 3 displays, or all 4 displays, or all 5 displays, and it's just going to stack them on top of each other, and it's going to have the defaults built to exactly what they are. Now, that's one of the things now that we can change in the new software. The first thing we can do is we can actually, as I said before, is have 6 multiple tabs that have different bits of information on every single one of them. They might be relevant to exactly what you're doing, or they might be something that you want to just look at as a separate thing that may not be based on training at all. What I usually do as a first thing, and this is up to you on what you can do, is I rename the tabs so that I know exactly what I'm looking at. And renaming the tabs is actually a fairly simple thing. You're going to go right down to one of your tabs located right at the bottom, and you are going to double-click the tab. And it's going to turn it blue like this and put in a cursor. So from here, I can now type in training, because this will be the tab I'm going to utilize for the basic training that I'm used to on this screen. So now that I've done that, now I want to customize this to be displayed as I want. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove everything by clicking the display button right up here and unchecking the displays that go along with them. Now that I have a blank slate, I am going to activate Panel Wizard. Panel Wizard is the system that we built into the software so that you can customize your screen to how you want it. And the way that you activate the Panel Wizard is by going down to the tab that you are currently active on and right-clicking on it. That is going to bring up this menu right here. This menu will tell you what displays you have on it, how they look, what sizes they are, and other features of that. Now, one of the things you're going to have to do in order to get Panel Wizard working for you is to first uncheck Auto Layout. If Auto Layout is checked, it is going to stack all displays one on top of another, which is the way the software used to work. Manual Layout, on the other hand, is now when I bring in, for example, a new panel, and the first new panel I'm going to bring in is my training waveforms. It is now going to bring in your new panel, and you're going to now be able to customize it from this area. So now one of the things you're going to notice on this screen is you're going to see number 1 is our training EEG. It's going to give you X and Y coordinates. Now that basically says exactly where it's located from going left to right and up and down. It also gets you your width and your height, so how wide it is and how tall it is. Other things you can do from this menu is you can choose to delete a panel if it doesn't work for you, or as I was doing with the right click before, if I click the menu button, it'll bring up its panel options. So this moving things around in this fashion, so for example if I type 100 in the X coordinate right here, as you can see it moved over 100 pixels. The size, the shape, and location of all this is all pixel based. And if I type 0 again, it will move it back there. Now, that is all very good if you know exact pixel information and know how to move things around in that fashion. Another thing you can do so that you can customize it a little bit better is if you click this box right here that says Show Outlines, it is going to show the outlines for that particular panel. By clicking this, I am able to click, for example, in this box right here and increase the width, or the width of it. And as you can see, this number right here is changing as I am dragging it. Or for example, if I click this box right here, I am also controlling both the width and the height, and changing it to what is going to fit me. And if I click this middle box right here and hold down the left mouse and can keep it held down, I'm going to be able to move exactly where it's located. So as opposed to having to know exact XY coordinates as well as my width and height for each display, I have the ability to show my outline and then move it to what's going to be best for me. So I'm going to make my tab a little bit larger, and then when I'm done, I'm going to hit my show outline, and that's my display right there. At this point in time, I'm going to change my menu, and I'm going to take off my tab defaults, and I'm also going to show my raw EEG. So now this display is going to show raw EEG, theta reward, and alpha reward. Another thing that people love to use, of course, is our thermometers. So I'm going to add that as our next tab, or our next panel, by going back here to add a panel, and I'm going to choose Thermometer Contour. So now what I want to do is I'm going to move this panel from this location to the end of it. One way to do that, of course, is to use these coordinates, which if I know if I'm at a width of 1119 right here, if I type in 1120 and hit apply, it's going to move it right to the end of it. Now, one of the things you might do at this point in time is go, oh, well, I want to shrink the size of my train EEG, or I want to increase the size of my train EEG so that it matches up to the bottom of this, or I want to shrink the size of my thermometer contour so that it's to the size of this. Not all displays can be controlled with changing its width and height. If you notice in this box, this is grayed out, and I'm trying to type it and I'm trying to change it. That is because not all displays can be changed. This happens to be one of them. If you change the size of it, you're not going to do anything to actually change the physical shape of it. So for something like this, what I would probably do is change the height of my train EEG window so that it lends to the bottom of it. And I am going to do that by, at this point in time, typing in this size so that it matches this size. Then I will hit apply, and then it will go right to the end of it. So now this has your basic information on it. Some other displays that people usually use on these are, like for example, our B mirror, which is a very popular one. So I'm going to add both of those on here, or the mind mirror I should say, and I'm going to put them right at the bottom right here. So once again, I click my add a panel and I go to mind mirror, and at this point in time I'm going to find out the height of the object, which is 388. I'm going to type it into my Y coordinate, 389, and I will hit apply. So as you can see, because we're 1 pixel below what our height of the object is, we have moved it right there. And I'm now going to add Mind Mirror FFT. And for this one, I will click Show Outlines. I will click right in the middle, and I will drag that to be right there. So one of the things I want to stress right here is to design your screen is, whatever's going to work best for you. As I've done this a lot, most of my designing and all that, I use the pixels. I'm used to the size of my screen, which is 1600 by 900 resolution. And most of the things that we design, that we put out that are panel design protocols, are designed on that screen. So some of you guys might notice that, hey, this fits perfect. Some of you guys might go, I don't see everything that's on it. If you don't see everything that's on it, you can actually open up those protocols and readjust them so that they're going to fit on your screen, or you can, just start from scratch and design them on your own. But so this is my first screen right here that I've put on here, and at this point in time I'm going to hit apply, and I'm going to hit OK. And as you can see, I've customized this screen now for absolutely what I want it to be. And when you guys design, you might not have this exactly designed like this. You might want something completely different, and that's okay. I want to let you guys know that there is no real wrong answer here. However you want it to be designed is however you want it to be designed. And if you guys have any questions on tips, tricks, movements, things like that, I am more than happy to help you guys. The email that you can always reach me at is support, SUPPORT, at brainem.com, or you can reach me at my extension, which is 440-232-6000, extension 211. I can be busy every now and then, but I return anybody who ever contacts me. And for some of you guys who've dealt with me, you know that that's the case. But this is the first tab that we've dealt with. And what I want to do now is I actually want to make a tab that's going to be based on equation information. So the next tab I'm going to click is right down here, which is tab 2. And I'm going to double click it to rename this Event Wizard. So now that I hit enter and put that in, now what I want to do is I want to cover, as I was talking to you guys about, is basically taking multiple events and stacking the graphs on top of each other. Now this is a very, very popular thing, especially since a lot of you guys are used to the old Z-Score PZOK UL that had all the different graphs stacked on top of one another. Where you'd have, you know, your PZOK training going on in one graph, the percent reward going on in one graph, and your upper and lower all in the same graph. And that can easily be done. It's just a little bit more work. And what I want to show you guys to make sure that everything works out fine for that is to first go up to our Setup button. And we are going to go to our Settings. We're going to go to our Event Wizard tab. And from here, we're going to see that in the EEG Pro 1-channel Alpha Theta, there are going to be 5 events total that were brought over. One, which is this one, and I'll go more into detail on events and things like that, actually in the third one, which is going to go over Event Wizard. But I just want to show you kind of the events that are in here. Is the delta divided by delta threshold, theta divided by theta threshold, plus alpha divided by alpha threshold. You got a high beta divided by high beta threshold. You got a points divided by 100. And then you got this one that is actually completely written over, which I am going to now just add some extra little feature in it called x equals all okay. Once again, more of this will be covered in the third webinar. Now, one of the things I want to cover to make sure that all event graphs stack on top of each other, just like you're used to, is to go right down here to the event trend graph. Now, the event trend graph basically says how big a graph is. So, for example, if we're looking at this one right here that has a scale factor of 3 with an offset of 0, well, this is saying right here is that we want to do a scale or a graph of data between the range of 0 and 3. And as you can see in Event 2, we have that same setup right here. Event 3, again, we're still a scale factor 3, offset of 0. Now 4 it changes. 4 we're saying we have a scale factor of 100 with an offset of 0. So that's going to be a range of 0 to 100 that one's going to be looking at. As well as Event 5 is going to be in that same size. Now, what that means exactly right there is if we stacked these 3 events on top of each other, they're going to line up perfectly. If I wanted Event 4 and Event 5 on there, they would not. And why don't I show you exactly what I mean right now so that you can see what I'm going to be doing. So I'm going to hit Use these settings and close. I'm going to right-click on my Event Wizard tab to bring up my Panel Wizard. I'm going to uncheck Auto Layout. I'm going to click Apply. I'm going to click OK. I'm going to right-click on the Event Wizard again. I'm going to choose Add a Panel. And I am going to go right down to, oh, which one is it? Wide event trends. So as I told you, the way the new graph works is it stacks all the different events that are enabled one on top of another. So I'm going to actually choose a size of 800 by 400 for its width and its height. I'm going to hit apply. What I'm next going to do is I'm going to click my menu button again. I'm going to uncheck Use Tab Defaults. I'm going to uncheck Event 5, Event 4, Event 3, and Event 2. And I'm also going to uncheck Auto Range. So when I hit OK, as you can see, my scale is all one graph from 0 to 3. Now, to get another one on top of it, I'm going to click the down arrow right here, and I'm going to click Wide Events again. Now, as you can see, it's stacked it right on top of it, but it's back to its other size. So I'm going to type in 800 again, and I'm going to type in 400 again. And when I hit apply, well, it's stacked on top of it, but you're going to see a whole lot of information on it. So once again, we want to go to our menu, and we want to uncheck Use Tab Defaults. And this time I'm going to uncheck Event 5, Event 4, Event 3, and Event 1. And I'm going to uncheck Auto Range. So now what we've actually done is we've taken these two graphs and we've stacked them one on top of another. So that way when the data comes in, you're going to see both bits of those data all coming in at the exact same time. The final thing I'm going to do is one more time I'm going to go Wide Event Trends. I'm going to say 800. I'm going to say 400. And hit apply. I'm going to hit menu. I'm going to uncheck tab defaults. And I'm going to uncheck event 5, event 4, event 2, event 1. Uncheck auto range. And then hit OK. Now, like I said, the one thing that you have to, the reason you...
Excuse me, Rob. Sorry to interrupt, Rob. Are you meaning to hit the OPQ, the opaque box there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you're done with a menu on what you want to do, you have to click OK to say you're OK with that.
No, I mean the opaque. When you're hitting before X and Y, you're hitting H and OPQ now. Was that intended? Right where your cursor is, you've got 800 by 400, yeah. But it's in the right two boxes. Is that
yes. Meant? Yes, it is. See, let me just go with that. The four boxes go. The 4 boxes go as followed: X coordinates, Y coordinates, width, and height. Now, the thing that is confusing right now is this OPQ is to be over here, and it's just because the software itself is not used to my alignment. But the 4 boxes and all that, that's basically saying my width and my height. So yes, I do mean to type it in there. Yes, I do mean that they are opaque and you can see through them. Now, like I said, now that I have the 3 events, as I said, stacked or basically opaque so you can see each and every little bit of data, the reason that the scale factor is so important to pay attention to on that one is because let's just say I wanted to add that X equals all OK. And I go Wide Event Trends. And once again, I'm going to change the width to 800. I'm going to change the height to 400. And I hit apply. And then I hit my menu button. And I hit Use Tab Default. And I uncheck Event 4, uncheck Event 3, uncheck Event 2, uncheck Event 1. And uncheck auto range and hit OK, you're going to see some gobbledygook coming up here. And I know that's very technical words right there, but that's exactly what I can say because we have 3 graphs that are saying that they're looking at a scale factor of 3 with an offset of 0, and 1 graph that's looking at a scale factor of 100 with an offset of 0. So it's going to display the information, but you aren't going to really make heads or tails out of it. So it is very, very important that you know exactly what you're looking for as far as that information goes. So what I'm going to do for right now is I'm going to actually delete that panel, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to click this down, and I'm going to go to Thermometer Contour, and I'm going to be putting up a new display. Now, before I move it, and pardon me, I'm getting over a little bit of sickness if I'm coughing a little too much for everyone. When I click the menu button, what I want to do is I want this information to be displayed exactly for my events that I want to look at. So I'm going to click Uncheck Use Tab Defaults, and I'm going to actually uncheck Event 5, and I'm going to uncheck Event 3, Event 2, or Event 1, and I'm going to check Filters, turn it to Events, and hit OK. So now these thermometers right here are specifically designed for what's going on in the data right here. I'm going to want to now move this to the end, and since I know my width is 800, if I go to the X coordinates and I say, for example, 801 and hit apply, it's going to move it right to the end right there. Once again, because we know that our thermometers are one of those displays that we can't change the size of, we're going to probably want to make our wide event trend graphs to basically match so it aligns right at the bottom of that. And the way I'm going to do that is change the height of this one to 388, the height of this one to 388, then the height of this one to 388, and then hit apply. And now we have them running basically, at the perfect bottom of each of those. So, now one of the things you're going to see right here is you're going to see a bunch of white area that's blank right here. What we have built into the new software is the ability to name events, and by naming events, you're going to actually see that information displayed down right here. So why don't I do that real quick by hitting apply, hitting OK, and now we're going to go back to the event wizard one more time for today by clicking the setup button. I'm going to go to my settings tab. I'm going to once again go to my event wizard tab, and I'm going to show you this box right over here called event name. Now what this does is it's going to control exactly what this event is called. As opposed to being called event 1, event 2, event 3, event 4, so on and so forth, it's going to be called whatever we type in there. So for this one, I'm going to simply type in Delta for now. I'm going to hit Use Now. Now I'm going to go to event 2. And for this one, I'm going to call Alpha Theta. And we got that in there. The final one I'm going to go to is right here. I'm going to call this one High Beta. Now, now that I've hit Use Now on it, and once I hit Exit, you see the name is right down here. Now, part of the reason it's a little difficult to see right now is just the color, the palettes that have been chosen for these aren't the most productive in the world, but the names are displayed right down here. So now, what I'm going to do, that we've designed kind of a screen that's kind of designed all for us, I am now going to export this so that we can use this protocol for future people. It's all nice set up, it's exactly how I want it, and I'm going to get it out there for everyone. So I'm going to click the File button right up here. I'm going to click Export Settings. And I am going to name this, just because this is what we did, Panel Wizard 1123. So now when it comes down to it for future people, I have a design of something that is for me, by me, that will work for my patients later. And you have the control over a lot of these different features. And this is the main reason we really wanted to kind of show you guys some of the different things that you can do with it. It's really limitless, and as I'm getting kind of close and I wanted you guys to be able to ask some questions, I'm just going to kind of just stop right now, as this is the first one, and I will let you guys ask any questions that you have as far as what I covered for today.
Rob, how did you get into the panel wizard again? Just I've forgotten.
Not a problem. That's actually that's no problem. What you're going to do is you're going to go to the tab that you're on. You're going to right-click on it.
Yep.
That's how you get right into your panel wizard.
Okay. Well, actually, I was wondering how you get into the screen you've got on right now with tabs 1 to 6, etc., as opposed to the tabs acquire waveforms and training waves, etc. How did you get back and forth from that?
Can you?
When you first started, you had acquired waveforms on the bottom for tab on where tab 1 is, and tab 2 was training waves.
Well, okay, so okay, I know what you're asking. Okay, there's no real way. Each setting file that you build in each patient's folder is its own kind of set of information that's in it. The first one that was in was actually a special protocol I set up just to get going today.
All right.
And that's why I had it, so I can show you guys some of the basics right off the bat. This was another one that I wanted to set up on a protocol that was kind of imported already. And then on this one right here, that's when I started doing it on its own. So right off the bat, most of the things are going to say tab 1, tab 2, tab 3, tab 4, etc. You control what they say.
Hi, Rob. Hi, Rob. It's Corey Feinberg. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I have a question about, I like most people, probably use, a separate monitor for our clients.
Yep.
Is there any way to put one tab on their client, on their screen, and keep another tab on your screen?
At this very moment, no. What I can tell you is that there is the client button that's located right up here. When it comes to what the client is looking at, it's not as crazy functional as we're looking at right here. And what I mean by that is I can't go through and design things. But if I go to this tab and I choose displays, and for example I have them look at their training waveform, it's going to do that. And I can bring it over to my next menu.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't realize that was a feature.
Correct. Panel Wizard for the client screen is coming soon. We haven't had that many people kind of go with it, yet. So that's why we haven't put it on the front burner yet. It is something that I would be really excited to get going because I think a lot of these screens and a lot of these designs are just as important for the patient as they are for you as a clinician.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but you could give them an event graph or some thermometers.
Absolutely. Absolutely you can.
Amazing. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, Shay, just call or email me. That's fine. No, Beth. There isn't anything that you need to do that's special about exporting settings. Simply File, Export Settings, name it the file that you want to, and hit Save. That's it.
Somebody mentioned before a second monitor.
Yes.
I just wanted to let people know, I come from the virtual reality end of this stuff. That's how I got into this. And Sony has just come out with a remarkable headset that I've been using with my patients as a second monitor. It was designed, it's a 3D effect, and the audio is excellent. It works very well with BrainMaster.
Oh, okay.
Because my patients really prefer it to the second monitor. It feels like it's a cocoon kind of feeling. It seems to pick up the audio really well. Not surprisingly, Sony is very good with audio. And the video is remarkable. It is very, very precise. It just seems, I don't know, people just talk about a cocoon kind of feeling with it.
Okay.
Where can we find information about that?
Log on to, go to the Sony website. It's a brand new device. It's their new 3D head-mounted display. It's not $800, but it's well worth it.
Well, real quick, you're on our you're on our list server because you you were able to get on this webinar. Could you do me a favor? Could you post that on the list serve? I think people out there would be really great to hear that information.
Absolutely.
I definitely will.
All right, excellent. That's good to hear. That does sound really cool, actually.
Yeah, there's actually two different devices you can use. One is for a lot less money. There's a projector that just came out. The patients can actually hold in their hand and put on the ceiling. That's about $200 or $300. But the Sony is a lot more money, but it's a much better device.
I understand that one. I've never actually had a problem really with Sony. Well, when it comes to things like that, but
yeah. So there's really two options that are both much better, I think, than a second monitor in terms of patient feeling it part of the process.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, I think if you could get that information on the listserv, you know, I mean,
definitely will. Yep. I
cool.
absolutely will.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Do we have anything else?
Rob, is it possible to run this screen so we can see what it looks like?
Probably. I don't have anything hooked up, so why don't you give me one moment. There we go. All right. Now, what I'm going to probably have to do, all right, let's double check that. And I can already tell you right now what probably happened is I already got a divide by zero error. Because this is our first screen right here that we got coming in, and there's our usual things. And for the fact that this is flat, I can already tell that there's a divide by zero on it.
Okay.
Now, basically what that means is that the initial start out was less than what you had there. So you're dividing by zero. Let's go. We're going to go File. We're going to go
All right.
Import Settings. And I'm actually going to bring in a lot of the new designs that we do have, for example, Alert Panel Design. And let me just close this. And then I'm going to open up my software again to make sure we got a nice clean open. And here is that event information as I wrote for this one. I'm going to hit Go. Oh. Let me make sure it's in simulation first. There we go. So that's how the event screen would look when you have multiple events on top of another.